Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining for the Rise with Diana podcast. I'm so excited. We have a special guest who is a friend, a longtime friend. We've been knowing each other for such a long time. And I remember us meeting at this place. It was the was the car was it the car was it a car wash? It
It
was a
was like
car
a
wash.
full service car detailing place, but AKA a car wash.
Yeah,
So,
AKA might have been some other things going on. But anyways, we met there, and at the time I was doing nutrition coaching, and I fell in love with this amazing Tonya Rider who has so many beautiful things for us. But when I first met her, she was a police officer, and I looked at her and I go, "Who is this supermodel with a gun that like you guys, I'm not lying. This is the most beautiful person and so much to share about being a woman with a purpose who is living it out with so much dignity and love for humanity and her assignment. So we're going to dive on in. Tanya, welcome to the Rise with Diana podcast.
thank you for
I
having
would,
me.
yes, yes. And so I'd love for you to, like we always do, share a little bit about you and your background and a little bit about what brings you joy.
Oh, I like that question. So, a little bit about me, born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. I'm a girl from the local grade schools and high schools here in Toledo. And when I graduated from high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So, you kind of try to find your way. And that ultimately led me to the police department. And I was really quite young. I think I had just turned 21 when I started on the police department. So, that was like I grew up on the police department, and
21.
that's crazy, right?
Right.
And I don't think initially I mean, I understood that you were, the slogan protecting and serving, but I didn't realize how much that would mean to me in my life to be able to help people. And it's kind of carried through all my subsequent careers since then. But I retired after 26 years and, remain in the area. But as you well know, I've had multiple positions since then, and I've been able to be involved in higher education
Yeah.
and mentoring, which we both enjoy.
Yep.
And so I think what brings me the most joy is seeing our successors succeed and
Yeah.
make accomplishments, and just to be able to be proud of them, to be the thing that that you and I needed when we were
Yeah.
coming up and were in our young 20s and 30s. So that brings me joy to try to help usher in the new leaders.
I can't imagine. And thank you so much for sharing that because, yes, we do share that in common because we are the adult versions of what we needed when we were younger. And I love saying that. And I know I see you doing that consistently. But let's go back a little bit. 21 years old, you're in this profession, which I would probably venture to say was not very woman oriented. So speak a little bit about what was it that carried you and kept you and what would you say was your biggest learning in that experience at that time?
I learned early on that anyone in that job, in that position, can go to work. And if they want to fight someone every day, or if they want to get in arguments
Mm.
every day, you have plenty of opportunities to do that. But that's just not how I wanted to conduct myself. And I was probably 99 pounds soaking wet. And I thought,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm going to have to be creative in how I interact with the public,
Yeah.
because I knew going into it that I was going to have that position until retirement. There was just like no
Oh,
ands, ifs,
wow.
or buts about it. So in order to sustain longevity, I figured, you know what? You have to treat people with respect. I may
Mhm.
not agree with what a person is saying or doing, but that doesn't mean I need to treat them in a way that's disrespectful. And so I kind of carried that with me throughout my career. And this can get you out of a lot of other,
Mhm.
situations. And so I made it a habit to, be competent, to learn my craft, to know what I was talking about, and to be well versed in, the law and everything that went with it. And I think when a person can sense that you're interacting with them from a standpoint of, look, I have a job to do. I'm not trying to treat you like crap, but this is what needs to happen. And it just served me well throughout my whole career because I think that a person can sense when you're biased against them from the beginning. And it's not about that. It's about treating people with respect based on their decisions, but you still have a job to do, but it's still that respect component that needs to be in play.
Did you hear that? She said, based on their decisions, and there was a brief pause because obviously your job is to protect and serve. And so often I feel you are a masterclass, and I think you should have your own show. I've always said this about Tonya that she needs her own magazine, she needs her own show to teach us. And so I have several questions. So one of the questions really that pops off to me because a lot of people have biases of police officers, and it really got worse, obviously, in the early, like right before the early 2000s, with, of course, Black Lives Matter and all of the things. What was it? Would you give us your understanding from your perspective? Because, and I just want to let the audience know that Tanya and I served on this interesting panel. I would say it was a task force that was put together
Yes,
by the mayor of our city in Toledo right after George Floyd was murdered to
right.
help bring peace and a deeper understanding of how the police could work with the community. And let's just say it was a flop. But I want to share, just keeping it real. I know if you were given the opportunity to give us understanding, because both I wasn't well, and then you were like, heck to the no, I'm out. So, but what would you have said that would have lent a good lens to people to know about what you thought with police and the public at the time?
My impression and recollection of that time was that it was highly sensitive. Like everyone was had their hackles up and they were, very much in their feelings, and rightfully so. You had one side that was completely opposed to police, and you have police that are saying, you know what, we're just trying to do our job. And so I think with anything, and we've kind of talked about this before, unless you're willing to listen, you're both
Mm,
just talking at the same time. And so I think that that was a lot of what, in my opinion, was going on at that time, and little progress was being made. Now, you and I have had this conversation multiple times in the past, and I've explained that, coming from a law enforcement career, I do see things probably different than other people because I know the what for and why we do the things that we do. I still say we, even though I've been retired for nine
yes.
years, but
Yeah.
I think that there also needs to be an education for the public to know because people have questions, and when they don't get the answer, they make assumptions, and often those assumptions are incorrect. And so, if there's some sort of education, and I do say that the city's doing better now because they've implemented different little programs for like sit down and have coffee with a police officer, go and do this with the in the community with the public. So I enjoy seeing those kind of things happen because I think there was a divide
Yes.
without understanding, and then coupled with what you see in the national media, it was just really, really a tough time to, establish a dialogue.
Yes, and I was snapping because there was no listening. And usually when you lead with your pain and you lead with a misunderstanding, there's really no opportunity for conversation.
Exactly.
And I feel this really leads into to business and the way in which you lead your life. When did you really know that there's a discernment about you? When did you know that you had this? And how has that was that a is that a would you say it's a superpower of yours? But I wanna dive into that.
So like I mentioned to you earlier, I knew that I was going to retire from the police
Yeah.
department. And I kind of did the math and I figured, when I retire, I'm still going to be relatively young. So early on in my career, I started preparing for after retirement.
Wow.
And because of that period that I told you about where I didn't know what I wanted to do after graduating high school, that meant as a working police officer and detective, I had to take my butt back to school and get a master's degree, get a bachelor's
Mhm.
and then get a master's degree. And then I knew that if I had at least my master's, I'd be able to teach. And I've always enjoyed teaching. I taught in the police academy. I enjoy imparting knowledge. I enjoy just telling stories and helping. I love seeing that little, that
Mhm.
moment when someone gets it. And so I was just lucky enough to have a colleague find out about a position at Bowling Green State University, like
Mhm.
within months of me retiring. And I applied, and I was a full-time faculty member there for 6 years. 6 years I worked at B,
Wow.
6 or 8 years. But to answer your question more fully, I think I knew that there was more for me to do. I still feel like there's more for me to do,
Yeah.
but I feel like my superpower is having the vision and knowing that knowing two things. One, there's so much opportunity out there. Like
Yeah.
there's no reason that we all can't be successful. And also knowing that you can reinvent yourself as many times as you desire. And
Mhm.
so until I decide that I don't want to do that anymore, I'm just going to be looking to the next, new thing. So
Yeah.
I think that just having the vision to know that there's more has served me well.
That's beautiful, and I really think that's such a good message for a lot of the audience that listens because there's and what I hear as a common theme when I bring people onto the podcast is they have this knowing that there's more, that there is I'm not stopping, ain't no stopping me now, I'm in the
Right,
groove. And
right.
so I really think a lot of us really need to learn, but where does that come from for you? What is it foundationally that gives you this sense of optimism, of this inner knowing? Because I think some people is was it born out of something, or did you always know? Because that is the thing. Was there something that shifted in you? Or because it seems like you just came out and you was like, I'm gonna do this. Like it's just like foo, and you floated.
I
And you
think
keep floating.
I just it started when I began to have limitless thoughts. And I know that that sounds like a very generic answer, but we spend so much time with ourselves. We spend more time with ourselves than anybody else.
Yes.
And when we have thoughts that are not it, and may sound woo-woo, but I know
Yeah.
you personally, so I know that you understand what I'm going to say. But when you have thoughts of abundance and manifestation, and you start to be open to the opportunities that might come your way, and have the sense of, you know what, I'm going to say yes, even if I'm scared. Once I started to embrace that, it was like boom, boom, boom. Things just started coming my way. And things that if
Mhm.
you had asked me many years ago, like, would you ever, be a full-time faculty member? Would you ever go on to, work at Ohio State? I would have told, but once you open your eyes, you're like, oh, that's a great bar, but what's
Mhm.
next? You start to
Mhm.
think of what else you can accomplish. So I think it started with me just realizing that I needed to change my mindset. Now, I will say that I come from a family of very strong women
Mhm.
that work hard. I surround myself with friends that are hard workers and, really work on themselves. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like osmosis. You get it
Yes.
by who you hang around. So
Come on now.
that all is part of it.
And so this is beautiful, and I really do, and I beat by that drum. I want to dive into this idea that you've seen a lot. I mean, now y'all don't know this, but she was in the sex crime unit. So she done seen some things. Some things that would cause people to, really start to have a view. Because some folks in your work in police officer, I see it as attorneys, I see it with therapists, they grow very, hardened to people and not really, kind, and also push people away. I don't see you doing that. You don't do that. You are very discerning of things, but you still have a very light, a very, obviously, you're beautiful. It's not, it's not written all over your face, right? That you've been through all these things. And so what do you read? What is it? What are some of the five things that would you go, okay, because if you've been through that, and I will say from personal experience, it's taken me so long to unwind my trauma. But I believe a lot of it is because my brain was formed at the hands of trauma and yours was not. Do you believe that because you see some things not only from the sex crimes unit, but I just want to, because you also were on the Oxygen channel doing
Yes.
Cold Justice, y'all, we the stars here. You see how humble she is. She ain't gonna say nothing about that. But not only have you saw some things, people who've done some horrific things, but yet still you kind of can go, oh, just goes over there. This goes over there. How do you read? Do you like, have incense blowing all the time? Like,
All the
is it,
things.
I mean,
No,
what is the top five? What do we need? Yeah.
one of the things that I make sure that I do is when I'm not working, I try not to take myself so seriously because when I am
Mm,
working, it's I'm laser focused. And it's interesting to me because when I'm working, my priority is the matter before me. It's not my feelings about the matter before me or my emotions
mm,
because you need to be um a source for the people that are actually firsthand experiencing the trauma, whether it's the family member of someone that's deceased or it's a child that you're interviewing about a sexual assault. They need me to be strong. And so I can deal with my feelings later, but in that moment, I need to be there for
mm,
them. And so what I
mhm.
always did, I've always had like a good, I don't have a ton of close friends, but I make sure the ones that are close, I let them know that they're important to me and we, you know, throw ideas around and we make time for coffee when we can. And these are the relationships that sustain you long term. I've always maintained that. I try to read things that are going to uh make me question. I don't always just read things that are comfortable for me. I want to know about a variety of subjects. And I want to be well versed in a lot of things because if you're meeting and dealing with a lot of people, you need to have a broad range of expertise. And I always try to make sure that you hear this all the time, but as the recent years have shown, sleep is my best friend because
Oh,
if you're
I love that.
tired and you're not rested, it just impacts every decision that you make. And so I've been prioritizing sleep and trying to eat well and take care of myself because I'm my own commodity. And if I don't take care of myself, then I can't do any of the things that I want to do.
Yes, because I know that a lot of the things we talk about, we're very holistic and we want to live well. And sis, I mean, we both been dealing with the thing called menopause. And that came in like a freight train. I was like, it came in like a freight train, just sat there like rumph.
And it's so crazy to me because obviously you have the advantage of being a former athlete, a current athlete, and I just, dabble in various forms of fitness. But I tell you
Yeah,
what, it's like the things that we used to be able to do
yeah.
don't always continue to work at the level that they used to work. So we have to
Right.
change. We have to
Yes.
adapt to a new way of dealing with the big M.
Yes, and then have you seen have any suggestions, things that work for you that have been something that you could share, tools from your toolbox to share with the peoples?
I think diet is huge. For me, it's
Come on.
extremely huge. Almost to the point where if you've gone a period, and I say eating clean, but just like getting vegetables in your diet, getting something
Yes.
in every meal. If you deviate from that, or at least me, if I deviate from that, I can feel it instantly. My body's like,
Mhm.
oh, mm, we don't
Yeah.
like that. And so diet is good, incorporating more vegetables and trying to stay hydrated, drink your water and things like that. Those are things that I see positive changes when I adhere to that in my body. So that's what
Yeah.
I that's what I try to prioritize.
Yes. So, one of the things we talk about on the podcast is speaking up and advocating for yourself. And you mentioned a little bit about that, but because you do it and you've done it so well. and you do it with a sense of ease. Uh, and has that always come easy to you to be this advocate for yourself?
No, that wasn't always easy.
How
And
did that come along?
I think at one point, and I can remember precisely when this thought changed.
Mm,
And I'll just take, for instance, telling someone no about something. It used to
mhm,
be like that was difficult for me because I tied the no to, oh, well, they won't like me, or they will think this, or they, fill in the blank. And then I asked myself one simple question, and the question was, would you rather you be mad at you, or would you rather them be
mm,
mad at you? And that's a question that helped me, even though people were never being mad, because once you ask someone something and if they say the answer is no, the person that's asking moves on to someone that they think can say yes. So it was
mhm,
never really about people getting mad at me. That was just how I was thinking. I was thinking, well, this is going to ruin the friendship, or they're going to be mad at me, or all these negative things. And then I decided that I would rather not be mad at myself for committing to things that I
yeah,
didn't want to do or be involved in than to jeopardize them being mad at me. And once I made that shift, my no meant more, if that makes
mm.
sense, and my yes meant more.
Come
So
on.
it was just something that I had to, work at. And it's an ongoing process because sometimes we get caught up in, well, I probably should, and,
Yeah.
all the things. There's a lot of
Mm.
pressure out there. But if you never do what's right, or if you never are true to yourself, then your word just doesn't matter.
Okay, y'all didn't roll that back. Let me roll that back. She said, you have to put weight into that yes and that no, and be clear about that yes and that no. We talk about that a lot on this podcast because I really think fundamentally speaking, there has to be a worth that you value and you saying that about yourself. And I think a lot of people struggle there.
Oh, I do too. And I think that we equate nice with yes, but no can be nice, and there doesn't necessarily, your no's don't have to be obnoxious and rude. I mean, it can be as simple as, thank you for the opportunity, I'm not able to participate right now, or
Mhm,
however determine you want to respond. But um it's up to us to be able to, that flexes a muscle in us to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations, and that's all part of
mhm,
growth. So if we're
mhm.
not, if we're afraid to say no for whatever the reason is, then we're not pushing ourselves to exercise a different set of skills to be able to communicate more efficiently. I just look at it as, something to help us grow.
Absolutely, and I will tell you, I mean, I have watched you on your show, Cold Justice, and the way in which you approach these conversations, these challenging, tough conversations that you have to have. You've obviously done it enough and practiced it enough, but the thing I'm hearing is that you have learned the art of not taking that personal, not you know how to put things in the right buckets and perspectives of knowing self and this, right? I'm not marginalizing myself for
Right,
this situation.
right.
And I think this is a practice that we all have to learn how to do, right?
Definitely. It's part of the reason why we're here. I think about that,
Mm,
and once ask me about being
yes,
on, I think about you and I have many, many off-camera conversations, and we're put
yes,
here for a purpose,
yes.
and it's up to us to find out what that purpose is. And
Mm,
if we don't do things to help us grow, we'll never really live up to what that true purpose is.
mhm. Yeah, and so the thing I feel is necessary for folks to understand because I see you and I've said this all the time because I always see you and I see you in a way of, wow, like that you are doing so many great things. And I got to imagine a lot of us judge each other. And what the sad part about it is that we all fundamentally have our daggone struggles. So I
Definitely.
just want to always say, because I bring these people on here, like we're human. Everybody's
Definitely.
human. And here is a woman carrying a gun around, and she was trying to make certain she said no, which it was hard. I don't want to, so we all weigh this. And so
Right.
I want you to speak to that woman who, and we do this all the time before we end our podcast. I want to have you speak to this young woman, or actually, she could be a woman who is trying to figure out her next move and she's struggling and she's really trying to figure out how she's going to maintain herself. And maybe she's facing a difficult conversation. Maybe she has to negotiate her salary. And what we deal with in our consulting business with a lot of women is it's really like, wait, you're not even getting paid equitably. You're getting
Yeah.
40% less.
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to, you know, I don't know if I say that, like you just said, if I say that, then they're gonna go
Right.
lose a job. What would you tell her? What would be the first thing you would tell her to start to think about?
The first thing I would say is to imagine that someone else possesses the qualities that they possess,
Mm,
and think of how you would think of them. So
wow.
if your qualifications are that you have this degree, you've had this experience, just take yourself out of it for a second
Mm,
and imagine it was anyone else. You'd be blown away. So
right.
that gives you perspective to see that you're internalizing bad info basically, because the facts are you got the degree, you have the experience, you're the expert in the field, so own it. But we tend to not do that. I understand, and it's definitely something that we have to continue to practice, but ask for it. The only thing that's going to happen if you ask for the position, if you ask for the more money, if you ask for, better hours, is that they can either say yes or no. You
Mhm.
won't die. They're not going to
Yeah,
kill you.
'cause we
And
think that.
we really do. We think that something bad is going to happen.
Yeah,
And once we place a higher value on ourselves, I think that people start to align with that. I think that go for the higher number. You know what? Go for it. And then
yeah,
they may counter with an even higher number. I
yeah,
think we just have to make sure that we're not limiting ourselves, because there's plenty of other people out there that will do that for us. We don't
yeah.
have to join them in limiting
You know that's
ourselves.
right.
So just go for it. And it's use it in all aspects of your life. I think
Mhm.
that's the only way I get good at things is if, we talked about having difficult conversations. Well, that applies to when you go to the doctor's office, the car dealership,
Yep.
the school, the wherever. You have to all, exercise that muscle in all aspects of your life. And then
Yeah.
it'll become easier.
Yes. I did y'all hear that? Oh, wait, just clip that part right there because that really is something that if you just heard that on rewind every day, that would change your life. I feel this is why we do the podcast because it's just good to get it out there first of all into the AI ethers and folks to listen to this because I'm personally I need things like this in my life all the time. And I really believe that as you continue to spread and get yourself out there, you need more good influences in your life. And so as you're continuing to go out here, because you are now at Ohio State,
I
you're
am.
teaching, tell us what you're teaching or what
So
do you,
I'm investigating
oh,
allegations of discrimination and harassment
ooh,
for Ohio State. But before we end, I wanted, if you just give me a moment, I wanted to, you talked about people that leave impressions on our life. I don't know if you remember this, but way, 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 many, many years ago, back when I was still finding my way, I was a detective and didn't know what I would do. I was afraid to speak in front of people. And I had to do my first speech, and I think that there was going to be 100 people there. And
mhm,
I called you and I said, "Hey, Diana, will you take a, like, what do I do?
yeah,
Will you take a look at my speech?"
right,
And you were like, "You got this." You called me on the day of the speech. You're like, "You got this" on that day. And you just really, really helped and supported me. And I never forgot that. So I'm
oh,
so glad and so proud of everything that you're doing, and just to be a part of it for this few minutes to talk to you about things that we both love talking about. I really
yeah.
appreciate it.
I love that, and I think all of us, it's just about paying this forward, right? Like, I feel like you never know, and you do such a good job of going, "Hey, I just woke up and I just wanted to let you know that I was thinking about you and love you. Bye." Like, it's like those moments that you can just pour into someone, you never know
You never do.
what is on the other line of what someone is dealing with, and I would say especially to the women you perceive as doing it, got it together, and all those things, do not ever
Eh,
question the fact that your influence makes such a big difference. Just texting them, calling them, letting them know I'm thinking about you just makes all the difference in the world. Are
It does.
you in a position where you feel your legacy is there's so much a part of your legacy, but what do you want people to know most about what it is that your assignment was on this earth? And you've said bits and piece of it, but I do want to put that as part of the legacy stamp.
My legacy is to help women accomplish more than I could ever accomplish, to see other women flourish, and just to be a part of seeing that growth. It's almost like children, like when you have mentees and they go on and they do great things, you're like, oh, it just makes
Yeah.
your heart feel so warm because I know that that makes a difference and that's going to have a ripple effect. So I want my legacy to be one of lifting up women.
Yes, I love that. And are you still on the show?
So yes, we're not sure what's going to happen with I've been on there for 8 years now, so I don't know if
8 years on cold justice. If
yeah,
you want to look it up, you can just look up Tonya Rider on cold on the internet. You will see that. But yeah, so
yes,
you with the jury's still out on that one, right?
exactly. But
No pun intended.
when I first started, I just asked God, I said, just if you let me be on 3 episodes, that sounds solid to me. I'm having this conversation. And God is like, see, there you go, limiting yourself again. And
Yes.
8 years later, it's been more than 3 episodes. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
That's awesome. I love this. Is this not the best conversation? And her voice is so, I love your voice. And it's very soothing and it makes me feel good. So thank you,
Thank
Tanya.
you.
I'm so grateful for our friendship. I'm thankful for your assignment here on this earth and all the things that you do to pour into so many people. And your legacy is already felt. And
Thank
so
you.
keep living it. Would you be open? Like so people would find you? They could just find you on the internet. Are you active on social?
I've been a little inactive on social,
Yes.
but they can find me on either LinkedIn or they can find me on Instagram.
Yes, find you on
Yeah.
Instagram. I'm
Yes.
so grateful for you. Thank you so, so much. And
Thank
for
you.
all of you, thank you. On Podcast Land, like and subscribe. Let us know what you thought about this. Reach out. We actually have a way for you to stay with us because we want you to get onto our newsletter, get into our ecosystem, and by the time of this recording, we likely will be having another Hotter at 53 that you can join us in January of 2026. Also, I can always put timestamps on this, but the Academy is open for applications. We definitely will be having an evergreen program. So check out the links at the bottom of this podcast and stay tuned. We'll see you next time.